Gloria Allred, and I'll be making a brief statement, and we have a number of people who will also be making statements. On April 18, 2013, we held a press conference in Los Angeles to announce the filing of a Title IX complaint on behalf of 37 Occidental College students with the Office of Civil Rights, detailing alleged rapes, sexual assault, harassment, and retaliation against those who spoke out against sexual violence. Our office represents a number of those victims. Today, we're here with students from USC, along with students from Swarthmore, Berkeley, University of North Carolina, and Dartmouth to announce the filing of additional Title IX and Clery Act complaints on behalf of students at these colleges. We are asking the Department of Education to open an investigation into these complaints and take appropriate action to force these colleges to comply with the law or risk losing their federal funding. Women from all over this country are demanding that their colleges stop these rapes and sexual assaults from continuing. They will no longer accept the status quo, where rapes and sexual assault are swept under the rug and condoned by college administrators. The message is loud and it is clear. Change is in the air, and those who refuse to see it and embrace it will find themselves buried under it by an avalanche of student protests, investigations, and lawsuits. Universities also risk the loss of students who may choose to go to other schools that are doing everything that the law requires to keep their students safe and protected, rather than to schools where they are at risk of rape and sexual assault, because the administration of those schools does not do what they are required to do under the law to make their students safe. We are proud to stand alongside the students that are here today, and many others that will surely follow. These students have decided to stand up and be counted in the historic civil rights movement to win and enforce the right of women on college campuses to be free of rape and sexual assault while they pursue a higher education. Currently, my law firm represents students at Occidental and USC. We look forward to working with victims and survivors across the country who are committed to asserting and vindicating their rights to be free of sexual violence on college campuses. And now, I would like to present someone who is a personal hero of mine. This historic civil rights movement would not have been possible without the bravery, the courage, and the inspirational leadership of Annie Clark, who is complainant number one with the Office of Civil Rights, who I now have the privilege of introducing. Ms. Clark has become the lightning rod for students all over the United States, and the voice of so many, and is an inspiration to those who are seeking change. And now I present Annie Clark.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Gloria, for that introduction. My name is Annie Clark, and I am legally the head of 2 federal complaints against the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I am currently a college administrator at the University of Oregon. I am proud and honored to stand here today alongside survivors and allies from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Swarthmore College, the University of California at Berkeley, the University of Southern California, Dartmouth College, and Occidental College. We, together, are the Title IX Network and are here to put a face to our national movement and to announce today the filing of new complaints from several schools. UC Berkeley, Swarthmore College, Dartmouth College, and USC also have all filed federal complaints with the U.S. Department of Education. Following in the footsteps of Yale, UNC, and others, as a survivor collective, we have reached a critical mass where we can no longer be ignored or treated as singular issues. As a current college administrator and rape survivor, I have an obligation to stand with other survivors to stop this culture of violence from happening to the next generation of students. When I reported my rape to UNC Chapel Hill in 2007, a university administrator responded to me by saying, "Rape is like football. And if you look back on the game, what would you have done differently in that situation? The message was loud and clear. I was being blamed for a violent crime committed against me. Rape is the only crime in society where we blame the victim instead of the perpetrator. Yet this movement is neither about myself nor my individual story. Since I have come forward, I have heard from hundreds of students across the country who have reached out with similar heartbreaking stories of sexualized violence. Recently, a father whose daughter attended the University of Virginia reached out to me regarding the grave mishandling of his daughter's sexual assault case by UVA. He told me, quote, "We found out that my daughter's rapist defense attorney was monitoring the school's investigation. We also discovered that a forensic nurse had later changed her findings," end quote. A student from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro alleged sexual harassment against her professor. The finding of this case was that there was, quote, "not enough space for an incident of sexual assault to occur." Another top-level administrator told a group who asked if the school should intervene in a domestic violence situation. He responded, "He's from a wealthy family, and dead girls can't sue." As a country, we need to have a conversation, and it should not take a group of mostly undergraduate students to hold our rapists, universities, and the U.S. Department of Education accountable for their actions through federal and legal actions. This past weekend, 1 in 4 women graduated with both the title of survivor and a degree, many of them graduating alongside their rapist. I do not want my boss's little girls and my niece, 4 young women, to meet that 1 in 4 statistic if they choose to attend college. Yet unless something nationally changes, at least one of them is going to experience a sexual assault. Students, parents, universities, and friends, we have a national epidemic on our hands, and we need to address it. When female students are more likely to be raped if they attend college than if they do not attend college, what message are we sending to our students? As a university administrator, it is my responsibility and my obligation to make sure my students are kept safe and have an equal access to education, and I am proud to be part of this new national movement to end sexual violence on campus. You will now all hear in turn these messages from each of these students and 1 professor. All will introduce themselves, starting with Andrea Pino, sitting here next to me, who is my co-complainant in the UNC case, my ally, my partner in this national movement, and none of this would be possible without her. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Pino. I'm a rising senior at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. 3 years ago, I wept tears of joy when I tore the blue seal of the large envelope that held my acceptance letter to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, UNC. I came from a tight-knit Hispanic family that never had the opportunity to even consider college. Most of my family didn't speak English, but I was graduating summa cum laude with over a 5.0 GPA, ACT scores around the 30s, and I was going to be the first in my family to make it. But early into my college career, I realized that my biggest challenge in college would occur outside the classroom. My sophomore year, my head was slammed hard against the shiny white tile, the same color as the graduation robe that I wore the day I last walked by my high school. He held my wrist against the walls as his hand slipped with my blood, and my vision blurred with the blood filling my contact lenses from my injuries. I felt his fingernails digging into my head, pulling me in closer into his unzipped black lips. I woke up in a pool of blood that dripped over into the cracks of the wooden floor. I felt dizzy, and I had marks and blisters that had no story. I remember his eyes. I felt my throat close up. I felt his lips on my neck. I felt his teeth on my skin. I realized what many fear most. I was raped. I met other survivors and quickly realized that rape didn't happen at the priceless gem of UNC. And if I came forward, not only would I not be believed, I would be blamed for a crime committed against me. 4 months ago, when I filed a federal complaint against UNC with Annie Clark, I never imagined I would be standing in a room with survivors from across the nation who have experienced similar violence and institutional betrayal. Annie and I thought we were taking this action alone, but now realize that there are literally millions of women and men in the U.S. who were raped during college who have been suffering in silence. This silence ends right now, today, as students from the East to West Coast join forces to interrupt campus rape culture. Today, student and faculty from Amherst, Swarthmore, Yale, Occidental, USC, UC Berkeley, the University of Virginia, and Dartmouth represent a network of more than 50 schools fighting to make our campuses safer. Thousands of individual stories are too similar to ignore. We are the 9 Network, and we are all connected. We have reached a national tipping point, and we will no longer be ignored. A year has passed since my rape, and while the physical scars and bruises have faded, the deepest emotional scars of the trauma and the torture of not being believed are still with me. I even feel less safe today on my campus than I did the night I ran home by myself after that brutal crime that was perpetuated by my rapist. Many wonder why I stay at Carolina and why I don't transfer to any other school. But the reality is I still love UNC, and every college in the nation has this problem. Students are attending schools in which, even after 40 years of Title IX, a pervasive culture of harassment and assault, one that accuses survivors of intimidating their perpetrators and ruining their lives, causes hundreds to never graduate and many to not survive their college years. As students sign up for an orientation in the coming weeks, the memories of waitlist blur. Yet as students enter their first semester, they enter a different waiting list. Thousands of students, your friends, your siblings, your partners, will be raped before they finish their college years. The reality is that there is no safe school, and today, we take the first steps in a national movement to change that.
All right, thank you very much. And the next person is Hope Wren from Swarthmore. Okay, let's move it. Thank you very much.
My name is Hope Wren, and I'm a rising junior at Swarthmore College. During the fall semester of my sophomore year, I was stalked and sexually harassed by a classmate. He would call me in the middle of the night screaming. He would send me threatening text messages telling me that I should expect consequences in the coming days. He broke into my room while I was undressed and refused to leave, despite repeated requests. I never knew what was coming next, and it was terrifying. Harassing emails would hit my inbox while I was sitting in my classes. I was overwhelmed and frightened. So I went to the administrators at my college for support, and I got just the opposite. Our Title IX coordinator laughed at me. She brushed off the incident because my stalker had been drinking. The crime was misreported, and my assailant never received any form of punishment. But I did. I was told by 4 different administrators that I was dramatic and I was exaggerating. They made me feel crazy and alone. But I am neither crazy nor alone, and neither is Swarthmore. At Swarthmore, at Dartmouth, at UC Berkeley, at Occidental, at UNC Chapel Hill, these institutions are failing their students. They're not protecting their most vulnerable populations from harassment and abuse. In fact, they're actively covering up these crimes. Survivors of sexual assault are left feeling alone, misunderstood, and irrational. This treatment is not only unethical, it's also against the law. And that's why Mia Ferguson and I have filed a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights today. Because we demand better. And our government does too. Swarthmore will no longer be able to get away with keeping known serial rapists on campus. They will have to begin to hold their fraternities to a higher standard. And they will no longer be permitted to silence survivors of sexual assault who are seeking protections for themselves and for their communities. But most importantly, Swarthmore must hold itself accountable for the damage it has caused to its students, and it must become a leader in the civil rights movement.
Thank you very much. And if you wouldn't mind changing places with Mia. Next person is Mia Ferguson from Swarthmore also. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Mia Ferguson. I'm an engineering student in the class of 2015 at Swarthmore College. I was victim to sexual violence as a freshman at Swarthmore. Today, on behalf of ourselves and many other students, alumni, faculty, and staff, we submitted a Title IX complaint to the Office of Civil Rights. Despite our filing a Clery complaint on April 18th, the Swarthmore administration has made no public attempt to reform their policies. The college held emergency meetings, though, with my rapist, and left me in the dark by not telling me. I was frightened that he would retaliate, that he would continue to harass me. We share the same dining hall. We share the same classrooms. We will likely share the same alma mater. The college left me unsafe, unprotected, and enhanced the trauma to which I had already been victim. Colleges and universities seem to be united behind a veil of support, a veil that is hiding atrocity and violations of federal law. As a student, I have been silenced and traumatized not only by harassers and rapists, but by the staff members that are in theory there to support my learning. No matter how much we encourage college administrations like Swarthmore's to take immediate action to protect us, they remain quiet and stagnant. How can colleges be accountable in the future if they aren't accountable for their past? Those of us speaking have had the support and space provided for us to come forward. Those in the 9 Network encourage students at schools across the country to take a look at to what atrocities they have been victim. If you are a victim of sexual assault, you are not alone. If you are a victim of trauma performed by the college you chose to attend, you are not alone. If you want to seek justice, you're not alone. Please contact us for emotional, logistical, or other support. Students are victims to all sorts of hostility. At Swarthmore, Dartmouth, University of California, Berkeley, Occidental, and colleges across the country. At a minimum, the 9 Network exists so we can direct people somewhere for support. But where is the trustworthy support from our college staff? Where is the college experience I was promised? We must shed light on these horrific events so that people know this is a national issue. Our friends, our daughters, our brothers, our cousins, our uncles, our mothers, and so many others are victims of sexual violence, and they often can't speak about it. We must address this problem nationally so that all voices can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Reed from USC, University of Southern California.
My name is Tucker Reed. I am a sophomore at USC. My sophomore year at USC, I was raped by a fellow student. When I brought the matter before the women hired by my school to investigate my sexual misconduct complaint, I was told that I should not expect them to punish my rapist, that their process was educative, not punitive. But when students are punished for other kinds of violent assaults or even for simple cheating, why shouldn't they be punished for rape? Universities are the gateways to every profession. How can women have equal access to positions of power in our society when 1 in 4 women will be sexually assaulted before she graduates? 1 in 4. That means, on average, more than 540 USC female undergraduate students are being assaulted every single year, but in the last 3 years, USC has reported fewer than 20 sexual assaults each year. While drafting the complaint we filed today, I read story after story of fellow Trojan women who were assaulted by students or staff. Victims are met with ignorance and indifference to the violence and violation they have suffered. Victims were shamed into silence, condemned to suffering with no hope of recourse or redress. The overwhelming failure of USC and all schools to help these students in turn perpetuates a culture in which predators can continue to rape with impunity. We hope that our actions today will encourage our university to support reporting of sexual assaults and to punish sexual offenders so that the statistics change, so that the numbers drop, because predators stop thinking rape is an easy crime, a crime with no consequences. Rape is not an educative experience. It is crushing, life-altering, inhuman violence. By filing our complaint with the Department of Education, we are asking that USC pay attention to the suffering of its students and take a stand to stop the rape.
Thank you, Tucker. And the next person is from USC as well. Her name is Alexa Schwartz.
My name is Alexa Schwartz. I'm a rising senior at USC. My freshman year, I was raped at a party during the first week of school. For 2 years, I struggled to convince myself that it never happened. In February of 2013, I reported the rape to USC. I provided the name of the rapist and filled out a form. I heard nothing in response. 2 weeks before the end of the semester, I went back to the same individual to whom I had made the report to find out the status. I was told that she had forgotten about it. 5 days ago, my rapist graduated. Earlier this semester, I discovered my classmate Tucker Lee's blog, which chronicles her struggle to recover from a rape by a fellow student. My heart sank as I recognized parallels between her efforts to cope and mine. I was, and still am, inspired by her bravery in refusing to be silent. Tucker and I connected. Then we connected with other survivors. Then we began an activist group, SCAR, the Student Coalition Against Rape. We started protesting, fighting the institutional indifference every way we could think of. And some of my closest friends, who I had never known were survivors, came forward too. It has hurt me so much to know that the pain I feel is not only mine. It is felt by the people I love and people I don't even know. It was then that we decided to file a complaint with the Office for Civil Rights. Because it's time that our schools, all our schools, start paying attention.
Thank you very much. The next person is Sophie, and Sophie Karasek, and she is
and I am a second-year student at the University of California, Berkeley. I was sexually assaulted my freshman year by a student leader who also assaulted 4 of my peers. Today, on behalf of a coalition of survivors, we are filing a complaint against the University of California, Berkeley for violating the Clery Act on 10 counts, including, but not limited to, discouraging survivors from reporting to local law enforcement or participating in formal disciplinary processes, underreporting sexual assault threats to the campus community, and failing to update survivors of the decisions and outcomes of their cases. I was not notified until 7 months after I filed a report in May 2012 with the Center for Student Conduct that there had even been an investigation into my assault. I never received confirmation of anyone having read my statement, and I was never called upon to provide more evidence. Last fall, I found out from a friend that my assailant had admitted to sexually assaulting me to leaders of the campus organization, and that the administrators had found him in violation of the Student Code of Conduct. I finally received 2 3-sentence emails, one of which only said that the case had been resolved through a, quote, early resolution process, and the other saying that he had been found in violation of the Code of Conduct without explaining whether or not he had been held for disciplinary action. I then learned that he was going to graduate a semester earlier than I expected, in 2 weeks from when I had received the email. This effectively removed the case from under the jurisdiction of the university. Contrary to its reputation for social justice, UC Berkeley has a long and documented history of silencing survivors and under-disciplining offenders. This is not the first time that UC Berkeley has faced federal charges for mishandling sexual assault cases. In 1979, a coalition known as Women Against Sexual Harassment filed a complaint in connection with a professor who preyed upon his own students with the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Now, 30 years later, we have written and passed a bill of no confidence in UC Berkeley's disciplinary policies regarding sexual assault through the Berkeley student government, detailing several outdated policies that deny rights to survivors throughout the process of reporting their assault, while suggesting alternatives based on resources modeled after campuses with better policies. We passed this bill to hold the university accountable to seeking justice for survivors. It is unacceptable that under the current system, the administration does not believe our stories and warns us of the sanctions of false reporting, that our medical center does not provide rape kits even when the case is reported to the campus police, and that assailants who have been found in violation of the campus code of conduct and even guilty in criminal courts are barely held accountable by our own university. This culture is pervasive from the residence halls to the Greek system, from our medical service center to the procedures themselves. The students who are afraid to return to their own homes in fear of sexual harassment and assault deserve to be more than collateral damage to a broken system. In response to our filing of the student government bill, the authors were publicly ridiculed in front of the Student Senate, intimidated for creating a, quote, chilling environment, and discouraged from continuing their work. But for women and for fellow survivors, the real chilling environment is knowing that our school will not discipline rapists in order to protect its own reputation. This story of administrative shaming and neglect is not unique to UC Berkeley, and change on a national scale is beyond due. The 9 Network provides space for support, love, and assistance, and has given many survivors the courage to speak. If you, your friend, your sister, your brother, or your spouse is a survivor, know that we believe you and that you are not alone. As one Berkeley administrator told me, although the university system may have failed you, perhaps you can seek justice on a larger scale. Thank you.
Okay, the next person is Anna Wynnum, and she is a junior at Dartmouth. Thank you so much.
Anna's statement will be following mine.
Wait, excuse me just a second.
My name is Lee Ross, and I am a Dartmouth senior. When I was admitted to Dartmouth, I was so excited to join the welcoming, supportive community that was promised to me and my peers during our Admitted Students Weekend. I wish I could have attended the Dartmouth that was advertised to me, but because of my sex and my gender presentation, this was not the Dartmouth that I attended. During the last 4 years, I have worked tirelessly with and for the administration to improve the college I care so deeply about. On April 19, 2013, during our Admitted Students Weekend, 15 student leaders interrupted a student event that we had felt personally deceived by due to its advertisement of Dartmouth as a comfortable, safe, and fun environment for all students. We chanted statistics of campus hate crimes, sexual assault, and chronic underreporting. We chose to protest as a last resort after working for years through the proper accepted channels and seeing hardly any change, despite the administration's promises and good intentions. Beginning that night, after the protest, racist, sexist, and homophobic threats and harassment began on anonymous online websites and on our school's newspaper, The Dartmouth. Students online made specific targeted threats calling for our lynching, corrective rape, and threatening to kill or rape us in our sleep or if we entered fraternities on campus. We reported these crimes to many administrators and faculty and documented them publicly. Yesterday, we checked our campus crime log and saw that none of these had been filed as of today. High-level administrators met with us the next day, expressed solidarity and support, and promised to address the harassment and explain the situation to our professors, as is their legal obligation under the Clery Act. This follow-up did not happen. Instead, the harassment continued and intensified. Many marginalized students in general were also threatened and harassed for perceived association with us. 5 days later, the administration and faculty canceled classes. The threats and harassment continued and continue to this day. I knew that the behavior of my classmates violated our standards of community, but I didn't know that both the harassment and Dartmouth's failure to address it were violations of federal law. I didn't know slurs and harassment based on my gender presentation were also in violation of federal law. This morning, I filed a Clery complaint with the Department of Education along with 37 other testimonies from Dartmouth students and alumni, documenting 14 Clery violations related to sexual assault, 11 related to LGBT discrimination and hate crimes, 5 related to racial and religious discrimination and hate crimes, 5 related to bullying and hazing, and 2 additional testimonies. It's heartbreaking to know that these testimonies are just the tip of the iceberg. I believe that Dartmouth and all institutions of higher learning can and must do better.
Thank you. Okay. Anna?
Hello. My name is Anna Genevieve Wynnum. I'm a junior at Dartmouth College and part of a group of students filing a Clery Act violation today. Our testimonies emphasize a culture of silence, hatred, and violence, approached from a multifaceted perspective. This violence includes sexual assault, hazing, hate speech, racism, classism, ableism, heterosexism, and cissexism. All of these systems rush together in each instance of hate and each instance of entitlement. We cannot separate one from the other. In my own sexual assault, for example, my assailant claimed in his defense during our Dartmouth Committee on Standards hearing that he had assumed from my appearance that I was, quote, homosexual or bisexual at best. His crime then became not only gender-based violence, but also a hate crime based upon his perception of my sexuality. My friend, after being sexually assaulted, plunged into a depression and was forced onto medical leave by the college. Once on medical leave, her insurance through Dartmouth was invalid, and because she isn't wealthy, she couldn't cover the costs of counseling necessary for her mental health. Her sexual assault was a gender-based crime that also affected her to an even greater extent because of socioeconomic issues that Dartmouth refused to take into account. The rape threats following the recent Real Talk protests have been directed primarily towards queer people of color, while straight white people have been mostly protected. The campus reaction to these protests against sexual assault, racism, classism, ableism, heterosexism, cissexism, and sexism proved that all of these issues are intertwined, and that rape on our campus, as in other war zones, is a tool of violence used to keep people in line, especially queers and people of color. Because of aspects of my identity, I am protected from much of the violence on campus and feel safer in certain spaces than many of my peers. It's difficult to accept that in many ways I cannot understand the constant hate that my friends receive based upon their race, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, and gender expression. Even with the many privileges that I experience, there are spaces, namely fraternities, at which I feel threatened. Indeed, in these spaces, my friends and I have been physically attacked. Dartmouth is not providing a safe environment, despite vigorous complaint and numerous suggestions for solutions. We won't put up with this violence any longer. Not the racism, not the classism, not the heterosexism, sexism, cissexism, ableism, or the sexual assault.
Hello, my name is Nastasia Schmidt. I am a sophomore at Dartmouth College. It often feels like when Dartmouth accepted my mind, they never realized that this lesbian black female body would come along. During my time at Dartmouth, I have been sexually assaulted by a woman, called a fag to my face countless times, and experienced pervasive discrimination and racial profiling. Dartmouth has a pervasive culture of silence. The students have so little faith in the reporting process and the judicial process that many of us no longer report them. When people learned that I was sexually assaulted by a woman who was a friend, my friend said that I should be happy it was someone who cared about me. I was also told not to report it because people would not believe that I was sexually assaulted by a fellow woman. When I reported these types of pervasive harassment, I was flatly ignored by campus administrators. To find a community of like-minded friends, I went through the Women's Sorority Rush process. I wanted to join a house with a community of support that I did not feel I had found in other places because of my identity. During this process, I was racially profiled, had a sorority president send an email to other sororities lying about me, and I was harassed online and called a fag and a racist because I am a queer black woman. I reported this to administrators and the counsel in charge of the rush process with a witness to corroborate my story. They instead questioned my mental health and discouraged me from clarifying my story. I was actively discouraged from going through the adjudication process. I was told that very little would be done and that the process would be very triggering for me. The sanctions they applied to my harassers were light and not mandatory. During this time, I continued to be harassed and was even asked to help facilitate community discussions with my harassers. On April 19th, I protested with another Dartmouth student, Lee, and many other students. After the protest, I was chastised by a professor and forced to go to class with students who made me deeply uncomfortable and feel unsafe due to past harassment, which led to me being hospitalized for PTSD. I now have to withdraw from classes, and I will lose the tuition dollars and financial aid from this semester. This college has failed me on so many occasions. All I want is to have a space to be myself and still be safe. These legal complaints do not only relate to sexual assault, they have to do with our college administrators' failure to acknowledge, adequately respond, and prevent harassment, assault, and violence. Every single one of my friends has either personally experienced or has been personally affected through a close friend experiencing assault or harassment. This is an epidemic, and colleges need to start following the law.
Danielle Dirks.
My name is Danielle Dirks, and I'm a professor and criminologist at Occidental College in Los Angeles, California. I stand today with these extraordinary students as they push their institutions to end the deafening silence around race and gendered violence on their campuses. Sexual assault was a serious issue for my friends and me when I was in college. It is sickening that so little has changed in the past decade. Because of the perverse financial and reputational incentives campuses have to hide the ugly realities of college life. It's high time colleges and universities tell the truth about rape so that we can truly address this crime epidemic. There are 5,000 colleges and universities in the United States today. Every day on these campuses, students face rape, sexual assault, sexual battery, and sexual harassment. These behaviors have horrifyingly become a normal part of students' learning and educational experiences. And when they bravely come forward, they are routinely betrayed by the institutions who treat them with indifference. As a professor, it breaks my heart to see students suffer in the aftermath of rape. Watching the moment they crash and they burn in the classroom, to see the brilliant high achiever, suddenly, become barely able to complete a semester. Terrified that she'll run into her rapist on campus. Suffering from the debilitating effects of PTSD that unfairly alter their educational and professional life course. Professors enjoy a privileged position of in higher education. And with this power comes great responsibility. We have an obligation to ensure that our students receive an equitable education and a place they feel safe. I'm calling on professors and staff across the nation to band together with students to end sexual violence on our campuses. We cannot call ourselves educators if we fail to provide the most basic life lesson that everyone is entitled to: safety, equality, and justice. Thank you.
I know you're not going to be deep, but I'd like to introduce you. We are also here today with Professor Carolyn Heldman from Occidental College. And she is the chair of the political science department there. And without Professor Heldman, whose bravery and dedication has been displayed many, many, many times, the female students at Occidental and at many other colleges would never have found their voice or had the courage to organize and come forward. So even though she is not going to be making a statement today, I just wanted to recognize her for the outstanding work that she has done and the support that she has given to those students whose support, and they really needed the support of Professor Heldman. All right, so I think everyone's had the opportunity to make a statement, who wished to make a statement, and who was part of our news conference today. We are not going to be taking questions for the students. However, if you have a question for me, I'm happy to answer some questions. Yes?
These are horrible stories. I mean, each one is so emotional. These women coming forward, I'm sure it was very difficult for them. What is it that you want the colleges to do, and what can the government do to change the atmosphere on college campuses?
Thank you for your question. We want the colleges to do their duty under the law, which is to provide a safe campus, one where our students are not at risk of rape or sexual assault. We want them to accurately report the crime statistics on their campus, which is required under the Clery Act. Parents have a right to know, before they decide whether or not to send their sons and daughters to that campus, what the true crime statistics are on that campus, including sexual assault and rape statistics. Many colleges are underreporting or failing to report the true crime statistics on their campus. Why are they doing that? What is the motive? Well, we believe that part of the reason may be that they don't want parents and students who may wish to apply to know the true crime statistics, because then that would affect their admission. Because of course, parents and a lot of young people don't want to go to a campus that's dangerous or unsafe. So there's an economic reason why they may not wish the true crime statistics to be reported, even though under the Clery Act, it is required that they report. Also, we believe that they have a duty to provide the safe campus, because if it is not safe, students cannot enjoy their equal educational opportunity. In other words, it interferes with their ability to be afforded equal educational opportunity. In other words, it's a violation of Title IX, and we know that most of the people who are sexually assaulted or raped are female. Of course, there are some male. And of course, this is regardless of sexual orientation. Obviously, people who are lesbian, people who are gay, people who are bisexual, transgender can all be sexually assaulted. There's a primary impact, though, on people who are female. And so that's an interference with their right to equal educational opportunity. There are sanctions that the Congress of the United States has imposed as part of the law. Colleges can lose their federal funding. Well, we want an investigation open, okay? One investigation has already been opened, I can say, into Occidental, as a result of the complaint that was filed there. The United States Department of Education has officially opened an investigation. And we're very happy to hear that. That's after we urged that an investigation be opened recently. And that's extremely important. So that's what we want, is essentially our students to be protected and safe. We have so many horror stories. Of course, those people who are accused of rape are entitled to due process. We want them to have it. The college has to conduct a hearing. Whether or not there is a criminal prosecution, a college has a legal duty to conduct a hearing. Whether or not there is a civil lawsuit, a college has a duty to conduct a hearing and to find whether or not the person accused is responsible or not for the sexual assault or rape. If they are responsible, the college needs to do what is appropriate under the circumstances. We've had reports, and I've said this at our Occidental News Conference, of, for example, Occidental finding that a student was responsible for non-consensual sexual intercourse, and the punishment was to write a book report on rape. All right, this is not acceptable, or just an apology is not acceptable. The sanction, that is the punishment that a college imposes, must be appropriate to what the finding is. We want zero tolerance for persons who are found responsible for rape, sexual assault. That means if you're found responsible for rape or sexual assault, you should not be permitted to continue as a student at that campus. There are many other things that we want, and it's all about making our students safe. This is not a subject that much attention has been paid to. And we need so much to be done in this area. So we're really glad. These young women are on the forefront of a new wave of change at colleges. And they are not going to be silent about rapes and sexual assaults there, and about their colleges treating them as this is an unimportant experience in their lives, and they should just go silently away and kind of forget about it or not make a complaint about it. Just here today, do we want to reiterate again? Annie, you know. Okay, so Annie will tell you that the ones that are filed today.
And UNC also has an ongoing investigation.
They've opened an investigation
Two
into
of them. One with the Title IX office, the other with Clery.
So that's also an ongoing.
Yes.
And that's as a result of the complaint that you filed. Okay, and with Allred. Yeah.
Okay, so today that are filing, the University of Southern California, UC Berkeley, Swarthmore College, and Dartmouth College. So there are 4 schools, and some of them are Clery complaints, and some of them are Office for Civil Rights complaints.
I just want to piggyback on this other question before too, which is also sometimes there's underreporting, and the college really doesn't want to talk about the issue because they don't want their alumni to be upset. Because that could also dry up a source of donations on which they heavily depend for endowments and for other purposes. So they don't want the scandal of how many rape or sexual assaults are actually happening and what's happening and how, and they just don't want that necessarily known.
Just want to clarify, are these essentially, were these date rapes or a combination of, or not
There's
necessarily?
just all kinds of situations, so we can't really, other than the way they described it, really go into it. But, they're all non-consensual. I will say that. So,
Are you filing suit against Occidental?
At this time, we represent 8, I represent, along with my partner Nathan Goldberg, who's in the back, we represent 8 students from Occidental. We represent them on the complaint that has been filed with the United States Department of Education. And they understand what their legal options are. No lawsuit has been filed at this time. However, we have been in contact with the college. They know that we represent these young women, and we will see what the future holds. What we're interested in for all colleges and universities is for them to really change their practices and policies to be more in line with the law. Okay, Congress didn't just pass these laws for them to gather dust on the shelf. It was for the protection of young women such as those who are here today. And so we are all acting in a way like private attorney generals to enforce the law. That's what we're all doing. Students, professors, complainants, because we need help, and we're going to make sure that these students are able to enjoy the rights that Congress intended them to have, and that the President intended them to have. Any other questions?
I just wanted to ask I don't know how easy it might be to generalize on this, but whether or not police tend to get involved, are students discouraged from going to the police? What's happening with the local police in these areas? The university try to keep it...
In some cases, and I'll just have to answer it in a general way, question in general, but it's an important question. In some cases, students don't know that they have a right to go to the police. In some cases, the colleges and universities are not telling them they have a right to go to the police. Of course, for a criminal case, the burden is to be able to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. Some cases may not be able to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. However, regardless of that, the college or university has a legal duty to conduct a hearing upon a report being made. And upon a report being made of sexual assault or rape, they also have a duty to include that in their crime statistics under the Clery Act. Whether or not there is a prosecution and a conviction in criminal court, whether or not liability is found through the filing of a civil lawsuit, they have a duty immediately to begin an investigation and conduct a hearing. And many of them are not doing so. So they have a duty to tell the young people, you can go to the police. Not you should go, but you can go. Give them all of their options. They need to tell them. And some are being discouraged, told that, we don't, do you really want to do this? This could affect your future at the college or your future career, and think about this. And just, in other words, there are many ways they are discouraged, some of them. We don't want them to be discouraged. We want them to know how they can go about filing a complaint, and then we want them to be informed at each and every stage of the complaint process. We want them to have a voice through that process. We want them to have as many rights as the accused has in that process, and not suddenly to just, after they file the complaint, at the end, receive 2 lines about what happened. In some cases, students have been told, well, the accused has been told he cannot come back to the college until after you leave, until after you're graduated, then he can come back. Well, no. He should be expelled forever from that college. Okay. Yeah, we have some cases, some clients we represent, where those clients have been assaulted by the same student. Okay, and the same student. Multiple victims, in other words. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Ms. Allred, the statement says you're representing Occidental and USC. I see there are other colleges represented here. Are you planning to represent the women from those other colleges as well, or do they have their own lawyers?
At this point, we'll have to see. You know, we wait to be asked, but we are, you know, we are a women's rights law firm. We have represented, we've done more women's rights cases for victims in the 38 years we've been practicing law than any other private law firm in the country, and we've won hundreds of millions of dollars for victims just in the last 10 years alone. So I don't know is the answer, but it may be. There are others who are contacting us, and we'll have to see. If it's an appropriate case, then we often will co-counsel with attorneys in those states. And we do have cases going on in various cases, in various states, I should say.
You're probably aware that last week a Dartmouth student was arrested for rape. I was wondering if you are involved in that case.
No, I'm not. But thank you for letting us know about that. Anything further? Anything else?
I just wanted to know if you knew the number, if it's possible to say the number of Title IX complaints, the number of Clery complaints being filed today, and the number that sort of you're involved in that are, you know, sort of from the past.
Okay, the number today.
I know which it is, but I
Does
just
each
wanted
school want to
Part of those complaints.
Yeah, how many new Title IX, how many new Clery complaints was it?
So because some complaints have a number of people listed on, like one complaint have a number, yeah.
So Swarthmore is filing a complaint to the Office of Civil Rights, and that's a Title IX complaint, and that includes 13 complainants, including both Hope-Friend and I, Mia Ferguson.
13 complainants.
Right, and so that's alongside the Clery complaint that we already submitted, which has 22 complainants.
USC, the complaint we submitted has 11 named complainants and an additional approximately 100 unnamed students who experience sexual violence at the university and violations of Title IX.
That's a Title IX complaint?
Yes, Office for Civil Rights.
The University of California, Berkeley is filing a Clery complaint, and there are 9 accounts, and there are myself and another woman who are working on this publicly.
So Dartmouth College students and alumni filed a Clery Act complaint today, and there are 37 testimonies that are part of that. And for details on the breakdown by category of violation, you can see my testimony.
Any further? Yes.
I actually have a question on another matter, if that's okay. You put out a statement yesterday criticizing, pretty strong language, the Assembly Speaker for the other case you're representing about, 2 women who were also allegedly sexually assaulted. Do you have any further plans for lawsuit in that case? And also, do you think Speaker Silver is vulnerable now to any other negligence lawsuits? The attorney for 2 other women is, considering suing him.
We said in our statement, that is the 3 attorneys who made the statement, my partner Nathan Goldberg, Marianne Wong, my co-counsel from New York, and myself, that we felt the speaker should resign for the reasons that we stated in that statement. We have no plans to file a lawsuit against Speaker Silver at this time.
Do you think he is vulnerable to any negligence lawsuits?
Yeah. I just can't comment on that.